My name is Billy, and I am 28 years old. I recently got married to my husband Carl, but our relationship with his mother Helena has been quite tumultuous. Fortunately, a chance encounter with an old friend saved me from Helena's malicious plan. Let me tell you about how Carl and I met. We crossed paths at a bar, a serendipitous moment that changed our lives. We instantly connected and began exchanging contact information. Our conversations were endless, often keeping us up until the early hours of the morning. At first, our relationship was undefined as neither of us sought commitment. However, as time went on, we grew closer and decided to make our relationship official. After dating for 2 years, we decided to tie the knot. Although my relationship with Carl was wonderful and harmonious, there was one obstacle in our path: his mother, Helena. Helena was a formidable presence, always getting what she wanted, even if it meant resorting to questionable means. Unfortunately, she did not approve of me right from the start. When Carl shared the story of how we met, her dislike for me intensified. I'm not sure why, but she believed I was an attention seeker who was after Carl's wealth, despite the fact that I actually earned twice as much as him. Regardless, she never held back in expressing her disapproval. I have always been aware of her aversion towards me. She consistently displayed impolite and derogatory behavior, although she made a point to do it discreetly. She would intentionally attempt to harm me in subtle ways, such as extending her leg to trip me or purposefully spilling either freezing cold or scalding hot beverages on me by accident. Initially, I believed that all of these incidents were mere coincidences, but after a while, being drenched in drinks at every encounter started to feel more like a deliberate act. So, I decided to discuss the matter with Carl. I believe your mother doesn't have a favorable opinion of me. I expressed my concerns. What do you mean? Carl questioned. My mom adores you. Well, she has tripped me on multiple occasions, I replied. Nonsense. Even you have to acknowledge that you can be a bit clumsy sometimes. Carl dismissed my claims. Sure, but she has also spilled numerous drinks on me, all of which were either extremely cold or scorching hot, every single time I've met her, I explained. I can't confirm that, but I can assure you that my mom is very protective of me. Carl defended his mother. Perhaps you are exaggerating because you are upset, and she hasn't fully accepted you in the way you desire. I'm not sure, I admitted. It's certainly peculiar, but if she genuinely dislikes me, would you defend me? Of course, Carl promised. But trust me, she just needs some time. Endure her antics a little longer, and she will come around. All right, if you say so, I reluctantly agreed. Although I couldn't immediately bring myself to believe Carl's words, I trusted that he understood his mother better than I did. Therefore, I decided to give it my best effort. I made a conscious effort to always perform at my best and exhibit impeccable behavior whenever I was in her presence. I found myself constantly in her presence. I ensured that I took charge of something whenever I visited, and I refrained from speaking unless spoken to. Naturally, I felt like a lady from the 18th century, but I was willing to go to any lengths to gain Helena's approval. Unexpectedly, one day Helena reached out to me. This was quite unusual, as she would usually contact Carl whenever she needed to communicate. I was genuinely startled when I saw her call. My heart raced as I answered the phone. Hello, Helena. Is everything all right? I asked. Oh yes, everything is fine. I just wanted to see if you are available this weekend, she replied. Really? Why? I inquired. That's great. I was thinking maybe we could go out together, she suggested. You mean you and me? I clarified, astonished. Yes, I know I haven't been easy on you, but I want to make it up to you, she explained. Of course. Where will we be going and what time? I eagerly asked. I thought we could have lunch at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at Savant. It's my all-time favorite restaurant, she revealed. That sounds fancy. I'll make sure to dress appropriately, I assured her. Good. "I'll see you there then," she concluded. I couldn't believe that Helena actually wanted to go out with me. It was peculiar, but all I could think about was how my hard work had paid off. Despite her previous unkindness, she evidently needed time to warm up to me. I was overjoyed and even shared the news with Carl. He was pleased that the two most important women in his life were finally getting along, and he no longer had to mediate between us. The weekend couldn't have come soon enough. Quicker, I anticipated it all week. I even organized my outfit the day Helena contacted me. I made sure to appear my absolute best, while still maintaining some informality because I didn't want to seem too eager. I had worn a stunning pantsuit that Carl assured me Helena would endorse. Upon arrival, Helena gave me a thorough once-over and scoffed. I didn't know if she approved or disapproved, but I reasoned that anything was preferable to her berating me for not dressing appropriately enough. Once inside the restaurant, we were promptly seated and assigned a waitress. The waitress who served us looked strangely familiar. As she made her way to our table, I couldn't help but feel like I knew her, but I couldn't quite put my finger on how. Then I glimpsed her name tag, and it read Daisy. That's when it dawned on me. Daisy was my closest companion during my childhood. We were neighbors as we grew up. Our families were close due to our friendship. There was nothing that I did that she didn't, and vice versa. We were both only children, so we were like sisters to each other. It became commonplace for people around us to assume that wherever one of us was, the other would be there too. But when we were in 7th grade, her father received a better job opportunity in the neighboring state, and they had to move away. I still remember how much we both cried when we found out. The entire month before she left, we had sleepover after sleepover at my place. She practically resided at my place while her parents packed. I left, and during that time, getting a telephone was not so simple, although we did manage to stay in touch in any way possible. Eventually, our lives took different paths. I formed new friendships, and so did she. The little contact we had gradually faded away until it ceased completely. I used to reminisce about our past from time to time, but as the years went by, I somewhat forgot about her. However, to my surprise, I encountered her working as a server in an upscale restaurant. When she approached our table, it seemed as though she recognized me as well. We placed our orders, and I pondered whether it would be impolite to excuse myself and go speak with Daisy. After all, it was the first time Helena had kindly invited me somewhere. Before I could even mention it, Daisy returned to our table to double-check our orders. In the process, she accidentally spilled some water on me. She apologized profusely while attempting to clean my pants and left a note behind. I looked at her with confusion, but she subtly nodded towards the note. While she continued to clean my lap, I discreetly read the note which stated, "Please come to the restroom immediately. It's urgent." This only heightened my confusion and concern. I decided to follow her instruction and excuse myself to go to the restroom. I made my way there and waited for approximately 2 minutes before Daisy entered. She checked each stall to ensure they were unoccupied before returning to me and embracing me tightly. Wow, let me tell you about this incredible experience I had recently. It all started when I bumped into my old friend Daisy. We hadn't seen each other in ages, so it was a delightful surprise to run into her. We exchanged warm hugs, filled with genuine happiness. After the initial excitement settled down, Daisy seemed a bit troubled. She mentioned that there was something important she needed to share with me. Naturally, I was concerned and asked if everything was all right. Daisy assured me that she was fine, but explained that there was an issue that might not be okay with me. Curiosity piqued, I eagerly awaited her explanation. Daisy revealed that while she was working her shift at a restaurant, she noticed a lady sitting in front of me. To her astonishment, it turned out to be my mother-in-law. Daisy had overheard a conversation between my mother-in-law and her friend, where they discussed a plan to poison their daughter-in-law's food with something she was allergic to. I was completely taken aback by this revelation. Daisy, being the caring and cautious friend she is, wanted to ensure my safety and warn me about the situation. She even went to the extent of secretly recording the entire conversation while she cleaned their table. She played the video for me, which confirmed her claims. I couldn't believe what I was hearing and seeing. It was shocking to think that my own mother-in-law would plot something so malicious. Daisy and I were both in disbelief. I thanked her profusely for her concern and for going out of her way to protect me. In that moment, I realized how lucky I was to have a friend like Daisy. Her quick thinking and genuine care saved me from potential harm. We spent the rest of the day discussing the situation and brainstorming ways to handle it. This encounter served as a reminder of the importance of surrounding oneself with trustworthy and loyal friends. Daisy's actions demonstrated the true meaning of friendship and left a lasting impact on me. I will forever be grateful to her for looking out for me. So, my dear readers, cherish your friendships and never underestimate the power of a caring friend. They can truly make a difference in your life when you least expect it. I was eager to witness the presentation, and just as she had explained, there stood Helena and her companion Betty, engaged in conversation. They were discussing my lack of respect as a daughter-in-law and my incompetence in taking care of myself and Helena's son. Helena took pleasure in boasting about how she had been tormenting me for an extended period of time in order to put me in my rightful place. She even went so far as to label me as pathetic for seeking her approval, which was particularly hurtful considering she was not only my mother-in-law, but also the mother of my husband. Naturally, I desired her acceptance. Moving on, she continued discussing her plan to test me by secretly adding finely crushed peanuts to my food, just to see if I would notice. She also found amusement in the idea of creating a scene regarding my allergy, as she believed I was merely fabricating it. The video of this conversation left me deeply shaken. Firstly, I knew she was referring to me since she only had one son and one daughter, making it easy to deduce that I was the daughter-in-law in question. Secondly, I have a severe and life-threatening peanut allergy, to the point where even the slightest cross-contamination could trigger anaphylactic shock. It was truly shocking to witness Helena speak so casually about something that could potentially end my life. This realization struck me to the core. I expressed my gratitude to Daisy for alerting me to this situation, and she reassured me that she was simply doing her best to protect another woman. However, Shia was pleased that she could assist me. We exchanged contact numbers, and I informed her that I might need to utilize her name as an excuse. She gave me permission to do so. I gave her a generous tip and returned to our table. Upon arriving, Helena appeared impatient and upset. "Where were you? Goodness gracious, you appear as if you wet your trousers." I encountered the waitress on her way back to her station, and she offered an apology, so at least she was kind about it. Ugh. These servers have no knowledge of customer service. No, it's all right, but I think I'll have to leave and go home. My pants are far too wet and I feel extremely uncomfortable. Nonsense. Just sit down and we'll continue. I apologize for having to bail, but the air conditioning is set quite high and I am feeling very cold. I don't want to get sick and I would much prefer to return home. Wow, you're truly going to depart the one occasion I've extended a gesture to get to know you better. I understand, and I feel quite guilty, but this was something completely beyond my control. I must leave right now, but please go ahead and enjoy your time here. After saying that, I departed. I immediately drove back home, but before reaching it, I stopped by a gas station and messaged Daisy to send me the recording of Helena discussing her plan. She responded almost instantly, and once I had saved the video, I drove back home. Carl was evidently surprised to see me there because he had witnessed my excitement, and I ended up returning home much earlier than expected. Early in the day, I found myself in a rather unsettling situation. Although I didn't directly communicate with him, I immediately made my way to the bathroom for a much-needed hot shower. I felt the urge to cleanse myself of whatever had transpired. There was a lingering fear that Helena, my acquaintance, may have intentionally placed crushed peanuts on my clothing or in my hair as a means to harm me if her scheme failed. I vigorously scrubbed myself 3 times over and promptly tossed my clothes into the laundry. Afterwards, I diligently washed my hands until they were spotless. Throughout this entire process, Carl, who happened to be nearby, observed my frantic cleaning without uttering a single word. He patiently waited for me to finish so that I could explain the events that had unfolded. "Do you want to discuss it now?" I asked, feeling apologetic for my paranoia. "What on earth were you so concerned about? You were having lunch with my mother," he responded. "Well, I happened to run into an old childhood friend who works as a waitress there," I explained. "That's nice," he replied, seemingly puzzled. "But is that why you were feeling paranoid?" he inquired further. "Kind of," I hesitated. "She accidentally spilled water on me and then asked to meet me in the washroom because she had something important to tell me." Carl looked intrigued, noting, "That's odd." I continued, revealing the truth. "As it turns out, she wanted to warn me that your mother had ill intentions towards me." Carl's eyes widened in disbelief. "Are you sure it was my mom?" he questioned. "And even if it was, are you certain it was directed at you?" I confidently responded, "Well, I am the only daughter-in-law she has, so I'm fairly certain it was aimed at me." Curiosity got the better of him as he probed further. "How did your friend come to know about this?" I disclosed the details, explaining Helena and her friend were discussing their plan at the restaurant. Coincidentally, my friend happened to be their server and overheard the entire conversation. Carl seemed skeptical, asking, "And you're just going to trust the word of a former friend like that?" I reassured him, "No, of course not." I managed to document the conversation, and I have it here with me. I showed him the video, and Carl's eyes widened. He was just as shocked as I was. At that moment, he realized the extent of his mother's mistreatment towards me. All those instances where I had told him about her ridiculous behavior, and he had dismissed it, all came rushing back to him. Not to mention, he had been present when I ended up in the hospital after consuming something with traces of peanuts. That experience alone was traumatizing for him, and to discover that his own mother had planned to put me in a similar situation was shocking. He apologized to me profusely for his past actions, and of course, I forgave him. I understood where he was coming from after all. Who could ever imagine their own mother trying to intentionally harm their spouse? We discussed his mother's plan at length and came to the conclusion that it would be best if we never saw her in person again. We didn't want to take any chances of her trying to harm me once more. However, that night, she called Carl to complain about me running away. "Carl, we need to have a conversation about your wife." "Yes, we do." "Oh, so you have something to say too?" "Absolutely, I knew it, but let me go first. Your wife is incredibly disrespectful." "You know what she did today? She left early?" "Yes, exactly. I took time out of my busy schedule to spend some quality time with her, and that's what she did. The audacity. I'm telling you, it's about time that I ended the relationship with her. If she cannot show respect towards my mother, is she truly worth it? Why would she even attempt to respect my mother when my mother tried to harm her?" "Pardon me? What? Can't act all superior now. What are you referring to?" "I didn't attempt to harm her." "Right. That's why I possess a video of you discussing how you planned to mix crushed peanuts into her food with Aunt Betty. That was not genuine. We were simply joking. Joking or not, that was an inappropriate joke to make." I'm relieved. Billy was informed about it and quickly removed herself from the situation. "Neither of us wants you to visit us ever again. We can communicate through chat and video calls, but that's the extent of it. If you show up anywhere to meet us, we will release the video and obtain a restraining order against you. Farewell, Mom." Carl ended the call with that, and let me just tell you, it was truly empowering to have him defend me. He was able to express all the things I had wanted to say to Helena from the beginning. Helena did attempt to call and message us again after that, but we felt that we deserved some space from her for a little while. We spent the following months living in complete happiness. Carl continued to make efforts to make up for his past ignorance, even though I assured him that I had already forgiven him. Helena, of course, kept calling Carl, and occasionally he would answer her calls. Naturally, she would do nothing but insult me. She would tell him that he was being disrespectful towards his mother by listening to his wife's opinions. Deceptions. Undoubtedly, he would never heed to what she uttered, and he would always fabricate some justification to end the call. Initially, we were doubtful about Helena paying attention to our warning, but for months she solely communicated through telephone conversations and written messages. Just when we were starting to relax and let go of our concerns, Helena made the decision to visit us. You see, Carl had grown weary of listening to Helena belittle me, and consequently, he began ignoring her calls for approximately 2 weeks. She was displeased with that and concluded that the most appropriate course of action would be to appear at our residence. She persistently rang our doorbell and shouted for us to open up. We attempted to disregard her, but eventually the loud ringing of the doorbell started to give me a headache, so Carl welcomed her inside. She forcefully pushed him aside and stormed into the house. I made an effort to keep my distance from her, because she truly seemed extremely furious and prepared to inflict harm. I did not want to get entangled in that situation, but I was also curious to understand why she had come over. "Mother, what brings you here?" "Didn't we already discuss this, Carl? I am your mother, and I have the right to be informed about the events occurring in your life." "Carl, I am your mother, and I have the right to be informed about the events occurring in your life." "Certainly, but you have never actually inquired about what has been happening in my life. All you have been providing me with are your unsolicited viewpoints regarding my spouse. They are not viewpoints, they are realities. Look, I apologize for disregarding your calls, but you need to depart. Now, I won't depart until your sorceress of a spouse arrives here and offers an apology for slandering me." "Slandering? She didn't engage in any such behavior. How can you defend her against your own maternal figure?" "Initially, I didn't, but then I witnessed the evidence and could no longer support your cause. Therefore, kindly vacate the premises." That evidence is concocted as if I would ever attempt to introduce crushed peanuts into her food. As I mentioned before, I am unconcerned with your jest. However, it remains highly suspicious that you invited her to lunch immediately after she spent years attempting to gain your favor. She is merely an impudent infant who perpetually craves attention. My intuition tells me that her alleged allergy is not genuine. I am once again requesting that you depart, or else I will involve the authorities." Helena adamantly refused to leave. She persistently shouted that I was a destroyer of families and vowed to exact the most severe revenge upon me. I was extremely frightened by this. Thankfully, Carl contacted the police, and they accompanied her away from the premises. We also pursued a restraining order to ensure we would never have to be in close proximity to her again. Helena did not cease her efforts to inform the officers of my malevolence either. It pained me to witness this, as I had not done anything to warrant such animosity from her. We did encounter significant criticism from Carl's relatives for vilifying his mother, so he created a group chat and shared with them the video of her plotting to harm me and informed them of my life-threatening peanut allergy. Subsequently, everyone offered their apologies and redirected there. I experienced a surge of fury directed towards Helena. Unfortunately, Helena did not react positively to this situation and bombarded our phones with messages, accusing us of tarnishing her reputation once again. It has been a chaotic few months dealing with these circumstances, but we have made the decision to move forward. We have taken the necessary steps to block Helena from all forms of communication, firmly establishing our desire for no further contact with her. Additionally, I reconnected with Daisy and expressed my deep gratitude for the assistance she provided me. Since then, we have spent a significant amount of time together, reminiscent of our past relationship. Currently, everything appears to be promising, and I am optimistic that things will only improve moving forward. From this point onward, I believe the future holds even greater potential.